Hi, everyone. Welcome to a special live stream here. I am joined by the one and only the Big Plume from Plume Gaming. Big Plume, how are you, man? Thank you very much for joining me.
I am doing great. It's been a fun couple of weeks of news, depending, I guess, on how you look at it. So,
Yeah,
doing
fun.
great. Lots to talk about, and I'm excited to jump in and just go over everything with you today.
Yeah, fun and crazy. For those of you that don't know and are not aware of Plume Gaming, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your channel, and what is it that you do over on your channel?
Yeah, sure. I do basically daily gaming news updates. Put out videos every morning at 8 a.m. Sometimes not on the weekends, depending on what is going on. And we're getting into a crazy season, so there'll probably be more videos coming out. But yeah, daily gaming news updates on essentially everything going on in the industry. I try to cover as much as I can. But I really like to focus a lot on Xbox as well. It's my preferred platform and where I play most. But yeah, I just bring updates every morning so people can drink their coffee and enjoy some gaming news.
Yeah, no, and you are my go-to every single morning. Right before the shower, I turn you on, and I listen and catch up on all my news. So everybody go check it out. I've actually left the link in the description below, so make sure you go check it out. Again, my go-to, especially for Xbox news on a daily basis. So let's start. Where do you think what's the state of Xbox gaming as of today, as of right now? Where do you think that? Do you think they're in a good place, a bad place? Where is it at for you?
For me personally, I think Xbox is actually in a very strong position going forward. The thing right now, it's like I guess it depends on how you look at it, who you listen to. Right now, obviously, when you go online, you go on social media, it does seem like there's always doom and gloom surrounding the Xbox brand. But we are going through an insane year of layoffs and game cancellations and studio closures. I think there's been like 9,500 layoffs already, which is pretty crazy. And the but Xbox themselves, they are just going. They have set themselves up. I think they saw the writing on the wall going forward in the industry. The market's kind of shrinking, less people buying, people still playing old games, and I think they've set themselves up very well with a huge portfolio, leading in subscription with Game Pass, and then obviously having now ABK with like the biggest money makers out there with Call of Duty, and then expanding out into mobile. So overall, I think Xbox as a gaming entity, I think they're going to be very, very strong going forward into the next 10 or so years.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. I think we're living through this giant shift in gaming. It's clear to me. I mean, we consume all of our other media via subscription services. You can see console gaming isn't in the same place it was 5 years ago, even, I think, 10 years especially, and technology has done that to us. And while I think the Xbox One, I think, hurt Xbox overall. I mean, they still sold tons of consoles. They're still selling tons of consoles. I do think, and while PlayStation is obviously still dominating in that console market, I do think Xbox is actually leading the way with this shift in gaming. Do you agree with that? Disagree with that? What are your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think Xbox will ever compete in terms of like console sales. And I think
Yeah.
they know that, right? And they didn't come into this generation thinking, "Hey, we are going to beat PlayStation in console sales, or we're gonna somehow beat the Nintendo Switch." Like, there's no way for a second they thought about that. For I mean, there's a number of reasons. Like, they aren't as global as these other brands, so they generally lose out on a huge market share in Japan and in other parts of the world. And they looked at the shifting landscape. They know that they're under a huge corporation like Microsoft, $1 trillion company, and they had to get them to buy in fully into gaming and show them like going forward, consoles are shrinking, potentially going away. Um, the younger generation now are playing games as a service, multiplayer more so than anything, and they're staying on those games for long periods of time. So obviously saw that they need to set themselves up to keep people locked into an ecosystem and be able to kind of jump around, but stay spending many hours on that platform. So with Game Pass, with cloud gaming, with the money now behind them, and Microsoft obviously fully buying into gaming, I think like they're good. They're going to be very good going forward. And all of the doom and gloom lately is just, I mean, we've talked about this before. It's reactionary stuff going
Yeah.
on in the media.
Yeah, 100%. I actually find it pretty frustrating, I think, or disappointing. I'd say the last two big doom and gloom events, the overreaction, I think, has really changed my perspective when it comes to the traditional gaming media that existed. And I think that the shift in gaming overall, I think it's inevitable that people will also start shifting. And I mean, they already have to a large extent. I mean, YouTube exists, Twitter exists, and has created content creators in places where they otherwise wouldn't be. There's no longer that walled garden for information. There's no longer that walled garden for opinion and thought leadership. And so I think it's kind of a we're living through a fun time. We're living through again this generational shift in gaming, and I think that includes where people get their information and opinions from. And
Yeah.
from my vantage point, we talked about this before the show here, the overreaction and the reactionary nature from so many people about Xbox over the last 2 months, whether it's bringing Sea of Thieves to PlayStation, which, oh, by the way, looks like that was the right call. PlayStation,
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely dominating over on PlayStation. I mean, we got an 89 review, I think, on PlayStation, and got not such a good review when it first launched on the Xbox. So Xbox has good games. They've got great live service games. We know that PlayStation is shifting as well. Their model, they're trying to jump into that live service game. They're renting Azure servers from Xbox to jump into the cloud gaming space as well. Everyone can see the writing on the wall. There's just this overreaction. I think people don't like change as well, particularly during these, particularly in these traditional media spaces. Change affects them just as much as it affects everybody else. So just the overreaction. I think Xbox is leading the way. I really do. And the thing is, Game Pass is taking this hit. There was this rumor that started cropping up with these Tango Gameworks layoffs that, well, Game Pass is struggling. It's like, well, guys, how can you say that? Like, that's just there's nobody saying that, and they were tying the layoffs to bad Game Pass. So much so that today we learned that it's confirmed Call of Duty dropping day one on Game Pass. Uh, Big Plume, you had something to say there?
Well, it's just that is extremely interesting to me. The whole Game Pass narrative that's kind of evolved over the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so. Because if you think back to the business update, there was all the doom and gloom leading up to that. But the reality is, Xbox putting those games other places doesn't do anything to the Xbox gamer, right? You still have Game Pass, you still have all your catalog of games. Who cares if other people get to play a Sea of Thieves? That's actually probably better for the game. It builds the
Yeah.
community and stuff, right? But then there was the whole question about Game Pass and Call of Duty, and are those games coming over to the service? And that was clarified in forget. I think it was Stephen Totillo or Game File or something like that, where Phil Spencer said that it was their intent to bring all of the first party games from Activision Blizzard to Game Pass day one. So you could extrapolate out from there and say Call of Duty is coming over to Game Pass. So I think since February until last week, everyone thought Call of Duty was coming to Game Pass. And then you have Tom Warren puts out an article and says that Xbox is discussing whether Call of Duty should come to Game Pass. And
Yeah.
to me, it would be more concerning if they weren't discussing what to do with the biggest franchise in video games, right? There was no concrete evidence or information there that they weren't going to bring it to Game Pass. And then now today we get that they are bringing it over to Game Pass. But the narrative that's evolved out of this now is you see a lot of people online saying, oh no, it's a last ditch effort for Xbox to survive. And it's going to be, they're going to lose a ton of money off this and have to close down more studios because they're bringing Call of Duty. And this is all because of the headlines over the last week and not looking at the, I guess, overall structure of everything that's been happening within gaming this year.
Yeah, I mean, and even Sarah Bond last week clarified all first party game. Once again, all first party titles are coming to Game Pass, and it took until today. It's just crazy. I think it's just the time we live in. Obviously, I think Call of Duty coming to Game Pass first of all, it's the reason Xbox, in my mind, goes out and spends all the money they do to get all of these studios. It's the Netflix model. Netflix has to have first party shows for you. HBO Max has to have those shows for you to subscribe to their services. Apple TV has to have those shows. It's no different in gaming. So they go out and get those. They invest all this money, and now we get the ball rolling. Now we start to see, okay, Call of Duty on Game Pass. What's next? I think it underscores, hey, Xbox is serious about Game Pass. And if that's news to anybody, I don't think you've been paying attention, or you've been paying attention to the overreaction on the internet. Do you think this move gets Game Pass subscribers for Xbox? Does it get a lot? Is how big of a move is this for you in your mind?
I definitely think it brings subscribers over to Game Pass, but I think just Call of Duty as an IP itself is just so massive, and there's so much they can do with it, right? Like, you just think about the shift when it went from 360 to PS4 and Xbox lost the marketing rights to Call of Duty, how big of a boost that was for PlayStation. Like, Call of Duty was bringing in their most revenue every single year. Now
Yeah.
Xbox has all those marketing rights, so they're going to be able to market it on literally everything, on the boxes, and put it with every Game Pass ad. So I do think it will move people jumping into Game Pass to play it, but at the same time, I think it's such a big game, it's such a big franchise. Whether you put it in Game Pass or not, it's still going to be the best-selling game every single year.
Oh yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think people are getting the thought that because it's going into Game Pass, no one's going to buy it. Like, we're going to see the sales be insane across PlayStation, on PC, on every platform that it's going to. So it's a win-win, and it's always been a win-win for me when I thought about it for Xbox to put it into Game Pass. You're going to get subscriptions, you're going to get people buying the game every platform out there, and yeah, people will buy consoles for it.
Yeah. Then the other thing is, I saw this report, and I don't remember where I saw this report exactly, but Call of Duty makes way more money. It's not even close, off microtransactions
Yeah.
than off of game purchases. So you're not, like you said, it's just a win-win all the way around. It's an absolute massive purchase, and a massive win for Xbox overall. And that's not even talking. That's just the Activision side. We haven't even talked the Blizzard side. I am one that thinks that World of Warcraft is going to come to console, number one, and I think the question is, do they include it in Game Pass? Where do you stand on that? Do you think World of Warcraft is a big enough type? Do they bring it to console? Do they not bring it to console? What are your thoughts there?
I think they should bring it to console. I don't know if they will this year, or because we've kind of seen reports come out where they said they've been discussing it and talking about it, but it just seems like unless they didn't want to reveal their hand too much, because there is the big showcase coming up right in a couple weeks. But I do think at some point they will bring it to console. Like, they brought Final Fantasy 14 over.
Yeah.
There's that other big MMO, Fantasy Star Online 2, that was launched
Yeah,
on
Black
Xbox.
Desert Online is
Black,
there. Elder
yeah.
Scrolls Online is another MMO that's there as well.
Yeah, so I think it makes complete sense to launch it on console because it's MMO, and your people spend their lives in those games. So if you're
Yeah.
Xbox, you're like, well, let's put it on console and we'll keep people locked into our ecosystem playing World of Warcraft and spending money on other things in the ecosystem. So yeah, I think they will. Just don't know when, obviously.
Yeah, the question on World of Warcraft is, because what is it, a subscription there? 14.99 a month, I think, for World of Warcraft. Do you tie in any Game Pass benefits to World of Warcraft? Because I mean, it's already crushing it. It's the economic model for that game. I mean, I don't know. That's a business decision, but if they did, it would be absolutely a huge incentive on like a Game Pass Ultimate subscription. You also get your World of Warcraft subscription. That's complete conjecture. That's just complete. I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening, but it's fun to think about.
Maybe they create a new tier. Because that's been another
Yeah,
discussion that we've been seeing over the last
yeah,
couple of days, that they're gonna increase the price or create a new tier to Game Pass, which I wouldn't be surprised, and I still think it would be an incredible deal. Like, if they're gonna add all this stuff in, and let's say, hey, you pay $20 a month or something, and you get a World of Warcraft subscription. I'm sure people will be interested in subscribing to something like that.
yeah. Let's talk about the Game Pass price raise. So we've had, I think, one price raise so far, if I'm not mistaken, like a year ago,
Yeah.
and it went from I think 9.99 to 10.99 on the OG Game Pass, and then it went from 14.99 to 16.99 for Game Pass Ultimate. I think you mentioned $20 there. I think 19.99 is probably, if it does raise in price for Game Pass Ultimate. I think that's the one that raises. Oh, actually, that's what Tom Warren said over on The Verge, that they're discussing it's the Ultimate version. $20 sounds right to me, and $20, let's be honest, is still a huge steal, and a huge value for Game Pass, at least in my mind, on Game Pass Ultimate, with everything that you get there. Do you Do you agree, disagree? You think that's a great value? Do you have a problem? Let me ask you this. Do you have a problem with them raising the Game Pass price?
Um, I don't like. I obviously as a consumer, I would always hope that they'd never raise prices and we can get everything for free. But no, I don't. Like when with the amount of first party content that they have now, and if we're getting those on a consistent basis, I think that's the only thing Xbox has to like make sure that they deliver on consistently now with all of their studios is just if they are going to raise the prices, there can't be like a long length of time where they aren't launching a first party title into the service. That would be my thing that I would end up having a problem for. But no, if they raise it to $20 and they do what they said they were going to do, which is release a game every quarter, and probably even more, honestly, with all the studios that they have now at this
Yeah.
point. No, I would pay the $20. It literally, it still can't be beaten. Like you just do the math about how much you would spend on buying some of these games, even if they go on, even when they go on sale, right? It
Yeah.
adds up fast. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm right with you. And I mean, it does look like the machine is starting to roll. I mean, if you just look at what's coming for Xbox, I mean, just here in the next week or so, Hellblade kind of kicks us off with the second, or not, we're not at the second half yet of the year, but kinds of kicks us off too. Then we have the Xbox showcase. Who knows what they're going to show off there? And then we've got more releases later in the year. And you could easily see that with the amount of studios they have, that one game a quarter, I don't think is unrealistic. I think is absolutely doable. A big game at that. So
yeah, and I think that's kind of been the trying to think of the right word for it, but that's kind of been where they've been trying to lead up to. And it's taken a while because that promise was made a couple of years ago. We're in 2024 now. And now with ABK under them, h- are they gonna deliver that game every 4 months? Like that's and once they start doing that, once it gets rolling, and I mean you got State of Decay 3 coming out, Fable, Perfect Dark. Like, there's so many games just in the next few years. And then again, all the ABK stuff, Call of Duty every single year now that they can slot that in, unless something crazy happens. And again, another article comes out and they say it's not coming to Game Pass. Who knows, right? But
someone has some influencer has more inside information that ends up being incorrect, and everybody freaks out.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the the media, the news over the last week or so, you would have thought people would have learned about I guess, the overreaction since
Yeah.
we heard about the 4 games coming over to PlayStation or the rumors about that, but it doesn't seem like they have.
No, absolutely not. What's been really interesting to me, and I posted about this on Twitter yesterday or 2 days ago, is I see all these opinion leaders in the gaming space, and even journalists in the gaming space talk about now how, like, wow, the Xbox, the commentary around, not Xbox, but the commentary around gaming is just super negative, and look how bad it is. And gaming used to be fun. And I think when you're a writer and when you're a key opinion leader you're online all the time, and you forget that social media is not representative of the wider. How many people playing Xbox right now are on Twitter, have any idea of the drama that's happened over the last 2 weeks? And if they do, it's very removed. I mean, Twitter represents less than 5% of the world population. What percentage of Xbox gamers that are actually gaming are there? And what people forget is Twitter highlights power users. Every social media platform, whether you're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, they're showing you power users who claim to be playing Xbox or who claim to be gamers, but I would say oftentimes they're more invested in their online persona than they are in gaming. So it's not real. And I think a lot of people forget that. And so they see the noise and they think it's that, like I saw a post, Jez Gordon did a post, and I love Jez Gordon. I think he's a really good writer and has some good stuff, but even he got caught up in it and just said, it feels like, Xbox is at an all-time low point. And it's like, really? I was here for Xbox One when they announced it. That was like a reality low point. This is
Yeah.
just noise. And I think that people get wrapped up, not able to take a step back and have perspective on things.
Yeah, I mean, how can we go from in 1 week from the death of Xbox to the resurrection of Xbox. It doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense, right?
yeah, that's true.
That's kind of what's happened if you were to live on social media. Now, outside of that, you're absolutely correct. Like most people have no idea what any of what's going on. Now I get it. Like the studio closures, for me personally, when it comes to the 4 studios they close, like I was a big fan of Hi-Fi Rush, so it's sad to
Mhm.
see Tango close. It's completely normal to react to a studio who created a game that you enjoyed closing in a negative way. But then to translate that to Xbox is it's over. They're dead. Like everything, they can't manage anything. Everything is going to be terrible from here on out. It's kind of insane when, especially when you look at the overall landscape of the industry this year. Like I said, there's been like thousands of layoffs this year. Clearly, these companies overspent over
Yeah.
the last few years during the pandemic and stuff, right? And now I don't think it's like a gaming crash. I think honestly that the industry and the market is just kind of shrinking back to normal. So they're having to make these cuts to because they overplayed their cards. But I guess we will see in the next couple of years if it continues to go down. But a lot of people are saying it's a gaming crash, and so it's just always
Yeah,
gets
no,
something
I'm with you.
unfortunate.
I'm not sure that it's a crash. I just think it's a correction.
Yeah,
Free money inflates things, and that's what we had during COVID, and everybody was staying at home. I mean, you had record numbers on stream. Just look at streaming. You had record numbers of streaming, and it's never come back to that, right? Everything's kind of there's an equilibrium happening and coming in with everything. But yeah, the back and forth, and also there's also a wider macroeconomic view that I don't think like things are not good worldwide. Things are crazy
yeah,
worldwide, and gaming, the game industry doesn't operate independent of any other industry. All other industries are struggling at the moment as well, and that's the key. That's the big thing for me. I think all of the doom and gloom around Xbox would be valid if it was only Xbox making these decisions. But like it's the whole industry. And so when you pan out and you provide context, it's like, well, they're not doing anything different than anyone else. The thing that killed me was and really got under my skin was, can we trust Xbox now? And I don't know how you feel, but I don't get that perspective. I really don't get the trust perspective. I don't think Xbox has said anything. I don't think they've lied to us in any way. I don't think these layoffs change any of the philosophy that they've talked about of Game Pass helps smaller developers. Game Pass helps bigger developers as well. There's not as much pressure of, hey, our AAA title that we spent $500 million in to make has to sell because there's a built-in audience with a subscription service like Game Pass. Where are you at on the trust issue there? Agree with me, disagree with me on that one?
I mean, I guess it kind of depends, like what specifically we are trusting them on. I guess I think when people are asking, "Can you trust Xbox?" It's can you trust them to keep studios open
Mm,
or to not close down studios after a huge consolidation? Because I think one of the fears, which is a very valid fear, is when there's mass consolidation, is how is that going to change the business? Like, how is that going to change the companies that they've acquired, right? And I th- I think people were maybe thought that they were told, I'm not sure, but maybe they were thinking that with this acquisition, maybe from media, from watching influencers, all that type of stuff, that if you were for this deal and people were saying, "Oh, we want this deal to go through for all of these reasons," that everything is going to be okay, nothing bad's going to happen. So now that kind of creates the narrative that can you trust Xbox when Xbox, I guess they never said that they would never close a studio, right? They never said any of that before this acquisition went through. So I don't know. I guess there's so many different things that you could ask, can you trust them on, right?
yeah.
Like Redfall that came out, not great. So people could be like, oh, can you trust them if they can manage a studio and release good game? For me, it's like, can I trust them that they're going to continue to give me the best value in gaming, which is Game Pass? And right now, they've done
Mm,
nothing to sway away from that. So right now, I still do trust them personally. If they end Game Pass, which people have been saying over the last week, then I'd be like, okay, well, that changes my complete view
yeah.
on Xbox.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So state of gaming, let's summarize. I think Xbox in a great place. I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think we're both on the same page there.
Yeah, I don't think it's doom and gloom at all. I think it's just a mass overreaction. and you're seeing that shift going back to excitement now over the last few days because of the different news that has come out. So
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about some of that different news. So we obviously talked about Call of Duty dropping on Game Pass day one. We got other news this week that while Xbox is closing studios, Activision actually has a new studio that they've been working on. I don't know if it's I didn't understand quite. Has it already been open for a while? It sounded like it's been open. This is just them kind of unveiling it. So it's Elsewhere Entertainment. It's got developers from Uncharted, The Last of Us, Cyberpunk, The Witcher, Destiny, and they said, quote, the plan for Elsewhere is to, quote, craft a franchise with an enduring legacy that resonates far beyond games, unquote. To me, I mean, I think it's common assumption that that's a single player narrative driven title, something that Xbox has been missing in competition with PlayStation. I mean, PlayStation has some of the best single player narrative driven titles, at least for the last decade, for sure. And Xbox, I think this is one of those studios perhaps that they view that can bring them back or bring them that title for them. Elsewhere Entertainment, though, Activision, what are your thoughts there?
um it sounds cool. I mean, you got the Witcher developers, you got Last of Us developers, so they have some pretty big pedigree in there that you think will make some great narratives going forward. Whether that's just only third person action adventure, maybe like it's a third person action RPG style of game, that would be very cool. I definitely think it fills a or continues to fill a need because you have like Hellblade 2, you have the Initiative and Perfect Dark, and where you have these more, I'm assuming, more linear narrative style of games, at least with
Mm,
Perfect Dark.
mm.
So it adds another game into that genre, which Xbox definitely needs. I mean, they have pretty much every single genre within their studios, and they are lacking in those more smaller linear games that bring in people who enjoy those.
Yeah, I think this is at least the assumption here is this is going to be a big AAA style studio. Do you consider is Hellblade a AAA game?
The first one wasn't.
Yeah, no, first one I would say like 2.5.
Yeah. I would say, like, I guess it depends on, it seems like they have a massive budget, even though it's a shorter game, or like a
Yeah,
big budget, right?
yeah.
So I would consider it. Yeah, I would consider it. I mean, that was one of the main things when they did get acquired by Xbox to me was like, how can they now utilize all that money and resources to make what they previously made even better? So I would consider it. Yeah, I would consider AAA now. And people are going to talk about the length of the game. They're going to talk about the price of it and stuff, which I don't know how much that actually affects whether it's AAA or not. But if it's like a 7, 8, 10 hour experience, and it all really
I
depends on how much money they put
Yeah,
into
I'll be
it.
honest, I'm at a point in my life where that time is like the I actually think a
Yeah.
20-hour game is like the sweet spot.
Yeah.
But 8 hours, like, I look forward to that. That's, like, doable to me. I'm just so busy as I get older, especially and here's the thing, Sarah Bond talked about this, how one of the things that is in gaming that is struggling is more players are playing these black hole games, a Warzone, for instance, a Fortnite, live service style games. There's more options. We're kind of in the golden era of gaming. There's more options than ever before. How you have such a limited opportunity to get someone's attention that an
Yeah.
8-hour game appeals to me, or a 10-hour game is like, oh yeah, there, done. I can finish that in a week with at an hour a night or 2 hours a night. I don't have to set aside 6 hours at a time, which I don't have in order to finish this game.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you on that. To me, it's like that 20-hour is that sweet spot. I mean, I'm thinking about the long games that I've played this year. I played Unicorn Overlord, which is a phenomenal game. It's about 50 hours, and that took me
Mm.
like 2 months to
Yeah,
finally beat.
yeah.
So when it comes to like an 8-hour experience, I'm thinking, yeah, I could actually probably finish that in a week. Sit down an hour every night, like you said, and get through it. So the length is perfect.
Yeah.
The only thing with for me, those lengths of games, it's like I am not the biggest, like, third person narrative games. I generally like more gameplay focused stuff, so
Mm,
kind of pushes me
yeah.
into that those styles, so that's the
Yeah,
only
there's
thing when
no
it comes
because
to that.
gameplay focused games usually have gameplay loops
Yeah.
that that kind of force you to play for 50 to 100 hours anyways, right?
Yeah, yeah. Unless they're just like these smaller, very small indie games, right? Where it's just you jump in right away and you're like a twin stick shooter or something, right? Then
Yeah.
those styles of games you can probably beat in a couple hours. But when it comes to the Xbox's first party stuff, their shorter stuff is all going to be, I think, more like those third person action narrative Sony style of titles, and a lot of the other games that I'm more interested in are going to be, I think, significantly longer.
Yeah, what is your game? What's your favorite game of all time? Like, what is the Big Plume? If you were to be tied to a game, what would that game be?
If I was to be tied to a game, probably like Halo 3.
Oh, okay, I see.
Probably Halo 3. Just because there's a lot of different reasons. It's just um the single player campaign was really good, but it was a lot more so than that was just like that era of when I was gaming and
Yeah.
the multiplayer side of things. It was a perfect time in life and a perfect game for that time period. So it was
Yeah, probably at
probably
the
in there.
perfect age too, where you had nothing
Yeah.
going. You just go
Yeah.
all in on that too.
Yeah.
Uh, that was similar for me. One thing that stands out is between that Xbox and the Xbox 360 era, and then Halo 3. And Halo 3 was this massive cultural event for Xbox. If you watch back, for those of you that didn't live through it, you can go and watch the Xbox documentary. I think it's what is it called? Power On, I think it is. That Xbox put out. And what really stands out is just how big of a cultural moment that was for Xbox and the 360 had the launch of Halo 3. And I've not felt like that since then. Halo 2 was that for me. It was, that's when I had LAN, that's when I got high-speed internet, connected it, had LAN parties with my friends, and then Halo 3 just doubled down on that. But I will say Fallout recently is the first time since then that I've felt this like massive cultural moment for Xbox and for gaming overall. And I are we on the cusp of something like that? I would argue I think Xbox wants to be on that. I would argue that we probably are. From where I'm sitting, keep in mind I'm an Xbox fanboy, of course. But I do think this is the future. But Fallout, it just shows like how important a huge cultural moment can be for gaming in a game console.
Yeah, do you think they were hoping Starfield would be that? And do you think like that it reached that on any level?
It's hard to say. I think Starfield probably launched too early with this latest update. I think it's
Yeah.
clear that it launched too early. I think Xbox felt that it could be this marquee title for the Series X. It definitely did not reach the cultural moment that Fallout is right now as a result of both just having fantastic pedigree, amazing games, and this TV show. So no, I don't think it got. And I'm one that enjoyed Starfield more than the average critique that's out there. I think it was better than what it's being critiqued as, but I will fully admit I don't think it's as good as Fallout 4.
Yeah, and it's a interesting question is should they have just delayed it until I guess 2 days ago when they put out that update on console because that was I don't know how much of an effect that actually had on the release. Like I enjoyed Starfield. To me,
Yeah.
I played it on my Xbox 30 FPS. I was fine with it. But I wonder if they would have delayed it to May 15th if it would have really made that much of a difference because I mean it still sold very well. Maybe somewhat in the reviews, I guess on the console, but it still sold well and like a lot of people jumped in and played. They still had crazy numbers. So I wonder if that's maybe why they're like, let's just
I
go ahead with
mean,
this
what
now.
is it? The top selling Bethesda game of all time.
Yeah.
So,
So
I mean, yeah, they absolutely crushed it. I actually think the reviews would have. I think you. I think if they let's say they launched this week and they had all the update stuff, I think all you do is remove some of the criticism there. For instance, the maps. The maps now, it's like, yeah, that why didn't we launch with this? This makes total sense. Uh, 60 frame per second. That's bonus to me. Um, but I still think the polarization would have existed because I think a lot of the criticism exists. I think that's valid criticism. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
but I think it's polarizing because it's the first Bethesda game to not drop on PlayStation. I When you go and look at the Steam reviews and someone has 1,000 hours in the game and gives it a 1, what is that except for like, I'm mad that you belong to Xbox now?
Yeah, like, that is something I don't understand either, but I was like, I'd have debates with, some of my friends, and they said, "Well, it makes sense, like, somebody just played through it and spent time in it and wanted to check out everything to come to the realization that they didn't like the game," but I'm like, "That seems like a colossal waste of your time and not very smart. If you
Yeah,
don't
it's
like a game, right, why would you spend 1,000 hours in it?" It's just
like masochist. Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry if you spend an I feel like I like Steam's review system, but no, I think it's Steam's review system is one of the best because you can see how long someone has played it, but it's still flawed. If you play a game for 500 hours, the minimum score you should give that game, you should be allowed to give that game is like a 6. Because there is no game that is less than a 6 that you are spending over 20 hours in.
Yeah.
Who's wasting that much time in a game you absolutely hate?
Yeah, or at least if you're gonna submit a review with that many hours, you have to have, like, a legitimate critique of it. It can't just be, like, a 1 star and say, "This game sucks," or something
Yeah,
like
well, and
that.
what was crazy, I do think it I mean, I think it was a review bomb effort for sure because I went through all the reviews. In fact, I did a video on my channel where I went through the reviews and said, Is this real?" And what was interesting is it was the same kind of critiques like the storytelling is shallow. And then you go to the next one. The storytelling shallow. It's like everybody has the same everyone came up with that same phrase.
Yeah.
So what did you think? Okay, on a 100 scale, what do you give Starfield?
On a 100 scale, I would give it
Because I think right now on Metacritic, I want to say it's like an 83.
yeah, no, I'm probably honestly right around there. Like, I'm probably like 80, between 80 and 85.
Yes, yeah.
Be right in that range. Like, some of the things that were missing, like even the update we got yesterday with the maps on the planets, that not being there was kind of annoying. One of the things that I disliked the most about Starfield that would reduce the score for me was just the sheer amount of, like, button clicks and cutscenes when you're, like, traveling if you want to fast
Yeah.
travel and stuff. That was kind of annoying. That pulled me out of it, the immersion a little bit. Um, the storytelling was cool. I liked a lot of the characters. I liked, like, Mateo. He was an interesting one, the theologian.
Oh yeah.
Um, and with the gameplay, I thought the gameplay was a far big improvement over other Bethesda games, just like the gunplay and everything. So yeah, I'd be like probably low 80s.
Yes, yeah, I tend to go a little bit higher, but 85 is right around what I get. But yeah, I just yeah, I think that's fair. But definitely it's definitely not like an 89 or 90 for sure.
No.
That's like fall I've gone back and played Fallout 4 since and just the way it starts, it's like, oh, they immediately I think what Starfield was missing was because of the setup and who you are, they don't immediately make you care about your character. Whereas Fallout, let's take Fallout 4, for instance, you immediately have like buy-in to your character and your
Yeah.
character's family, and you're just like, whoa, what look at just what happened. It's like, oh my goodness. You kind of never get that with Starfield with your character. I mean, I think you care about other characters, not your own character as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree with that. And you develop that, I guess, as you explore and do more of like the side missions and stuff. And if you don't, that's one of the things that I think they emphasize a lot, but you don't have to do it. But if you don't explore, you're probably going to miss out on a lot of the things that would elevate your overall enjoyment of the game. Just like what I remember getting, I forget the names of some of the items I got, but like there was this mission where I got a new ship and a new suit, and it was like one of the best suits and ships in the game, at least for early on. And that was just from random exploring. So that type of stuff was really cool to me when I was playing through it.
Yeah. I wonder, what do you think of this? Because I've always argued that Starfield is the first Bethesda game, and Todd Howard has talked about this, that they're building for mods. Now, Bethesda's known for mods, but it's kind of by accident. Skyrim is probably the most popular example. Skyrim is a top selling game today, even because of the mod community. People are still playing it. It's absolutely insane. In fact, Skyrim is one of the only games that I have purchased on my Nintendo Switch. I have purchased on every Xbox console I've had, I purchased on Steam, so I own it across, and it's because of the mods. But that game wasn't built with mods in mind. Starfield's the first one to be built with mods in mind, expansions in mind.
Yeah.
And so I think over time, like imagine where that game could be 10 years, or let's not even 10 years. Let's say 3 years from now with those kinds of, it could be a wildly different game. And I think actually the way they do New Game Plus, this is my own theory and I could be a crazy person. I think the way they do New Game Plus is actually set up for mods. I think the amount of planets, because a lot of people have criticized, well, there's too many planets. Yeah, but what if, modders come in and all of a sudden all these planets, like they have their own stories, there's their own civilizations there. Like the possibilities really are endless, especially since they built it with that in mind.
Yeah, people are going to be building their own worlds on these
Yeah.
planets. That was a big discussion when they announced the 1,000 planets, right? Was it 1,000? I think the
Yeah.
total or something
1,000.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole discussion about, well, why is it there's so many planets and the procedurally generated and all this stuff? It's like you don't need to actually visit all 1,000 planets, but you can see what they are going for, which is for be able to build things on there and people to have their entire whole world. Like you're probably going to see people just like literally living on their one planet that they've been building forever and ever, and then going there exploring, depending on how you wanna play, right? Like, you're gonna go in there, loot everything, and destroy everything they've created. Like, that's gonna be some interesting stuff, and hopefully we get Shattered Space this and, they show it off at the showcase. I feel like they will, because 'cause they're what I've heard, what we've been hearing is that they're planning to release it this fall, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah. I think we'll see it. Now, what do you think? Do you think Shattered Space takes like, do you think it's side missions, not side missions, but like a mission that goes off this direction on the side? Or do you think it's something that capitalizes on New Game Plus?
I think it's gonna be just a whole new storyline that you get to go on, kind of like
Yeah.
the like when you do, like, the Crimson Fleet storyline, something like along those lines, but probably longer. But,
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that take. Everybody, thank you for joining us live today. For those of you that are new here, I'm X1 the Gamer. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel on YouTube. If you're joining us live on Twitter, follow me. This is the Big Plume at the Big Plume, and Plume Gaming on YouTube does daily news, daily gaming news. Make sure you give him a follow and a subscribe as well, both on Twitter and on YouTube. Let's take some comments here that we got before we're before we wrap up here. This is from the Psychotic. He said, if only the media bias would diminish, then we could really have positive gaming for all. I don't disagree with that, good sir. Do not disagree with that. Kieran says, good chat, guys. I like hearing the rational talk. Hashtag team chill. I like that
like
as
that one.
well. Amen. Amen. And then Adidas 20 dropped a super chat. Thank you for that super chat. What up, X1 and Big P? X1, great video on FUD. It was a masterpiece. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Very much appreciate that. For those of you that haven't seen that video, go check it out. Just go through the history there. You can see. I actually thought I was going to get more hate on that. Not that much. I think a lot of people feel the same way that we feel. They're just like, guys,
Yeah.
have some reason here, have some logic.
It was a great video, and the one thing that I think has just kind of exasperated for me was when the whole 4 games coming over, when all of that media stuff happened, I'll admit, like, I got caught up in it a little bit on social media, like, and then I had to take a step back and realize this makes no sense. Like, this is an
Mm.
overreaction on every single end, and people are just losing their minds. And then when it got to this, uh, last week, your video really made me think about, like, just the reactionary side of these journalists who you would expect are supposed to be giving us, like, information and doing some investigation rather than just reacting online and then fueling these fires that we do see on Xbox.
Yeah, like at least to me, and I think maybe Twitter just because you're getting like knee-jerk reactions. That's
Yeah.
the nature of a Twitter, but to me it's if I don't know. Nobody that I saw from traditional gaming just took a step back and said, "Okay, guys." What's interesting is it took a developer, the developer from
from Moon Studios, right?
Moon
Thomas.
Studios. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, he just did your job for you. All he asked was, okay, they're saying it's for reprioritization. Is that unlikely? Is that plausible? Yes, it's plausible. Why? And that's it. That's all you had to ask. And nobody asked it. Like, that's
Uh,
what.
yeah. That was a big frustration for me when it was all going down. I was looking and looking as to why, if somebody had a concrete reason why, but nobody did. Besides, I mean, he had a guess explanation, I guess you could say, from somebody directly in the industry building these games. So
Yeah, and I think what happened is a lot of people started to assume and project their own assumptions onto what was happening when all we had to go off of was what Matt Booty said. And in absence of extra information, reprioritization and restructuring consolidation makes total sense to me.
yeah,
Here's the thing though, if it wasn't for Tango Gameworks, let's pretend Tango Gameworks doesn't go away. Is the outrage there?
I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah,
so at all.
I agree.
I think people are like, I think honestly, because if you go on like even Redfall, or Arcane Austin put out a tweet today about their last update for Redfall, and in the comments, like people were just being just jerks to them about the game, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think so at all. And then the other two studios, one was actually just being folded in, right? ZeniMax Online. Then there was a mobile studio that was closing because they have King and they have all these big mobile studios already. So no, I don't think there would be pretty much any talk. Well, I kind of take it back. There probably would be some spins as to why it's still the end of Xbox.
Yeah, no, that's true. On Redfall, I never jumped in and played it. I think you did. What was
Yeah.
it as bad as everybody's saying? Was that over? Now, like looking back now at all previous news stories, I question them now. Like, well, wait a minute, is that correct? Was Redfall as bad as it got portrayed? Was that an overreaction in your mind? What do you think?
There was a lot of issues with it. I actually beat it. I played it took me 20 plus hours or something.
Mm,
I played through it all. There were definitely a lot of issues with it. Like so was it as bad as people was it the worst game ever made? No, but it should not have been released in that state. But the reality is I actually had fun still playing through it
mm.
because there was a world there that I think could have been really good if they didn't kill it by releasing it in that state. Like the whole atmosphere with the vampires and like the going through houses and just the smoke and them popping out. Like there was a lot of good stuff in that game. I just wish they would have delayed that one for sure because I think could have been a lot better than the state that it was in.
Yeah, that one to me, it was a Microsoft messaging issue, and there was kind of 2 in a row for that. Remember, it was at the Xbox showcase the year before Redfall released, and they showed off the Halo Infinite footage, and it was like alpha footage,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
they didn't say it was alpha footage, and it clearly, well, afterwards they did. Maybe it wasn't alpha footage. I don't know. Maybe that was an excuse, but um, that to me was a marketing mistake that they could have prevented, or a messaging mistake rather. And then with Redfall, they didn't do anything to say like, "Oh, well, this is, you know, this is just, this game is dropping." They like made it seem like this is going to be the game for
Yeah.
Xbox. At least that's how it came off. And so I think I actually blame Xbox's messaging there a little bit on that Redfall one.
Yeah, and what they did with the whole influencers and them showing like these pre-made clips on the highest NPCs and making people believe that that was the state of the game on console, and then obviously that wasn't how it came out. I think that hurt it a lot too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but at
100%.
least with Halo, they did turn it around with that Craig meme. I thought that they actually
Yeah,
turned that into
that's
something pretty
true.
good.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And they did something as well. I think they hit back at PlayStation right after the Redfall as well, with some PlayStation. And I thought, oh, there we go. That's the kind of like this agile punch back in the vein of what Sega used to do to Nintendo. That's kind of the messaging I think Xbox needs. But we got another comment here from Criminal Logic. He says, I'll definitely check this out later. Awesome seeing you two on a podcast together. Thank you, Criminal Logic, for that. Who else do we got? Closing Tango and Arcane Austin isn't an L or a W, just part of the business, unfortunately. Jimmy Mack, think that's pretty reasonable, pretty solid there. And then make it simple. I just want the next Xbox to be a handheld that can be docked 1080, 60 frames per second. They can release a 1440, 120 console as a complement. What do you think of that? Are you all in on the portable, like an Xbox handheld portable idea?
Absolutely. I love my ROG Ally. That's what I use right now for my portable gaming. But to me, the prospect of having your entire Xbox catalog besides just Game Pass with the console UI in your hands is something I would buy day one. Because like we were talking about earlier, our time's limited for playing these games, right?
Yeah.
Half the time I'm sitting in my laying in bed at night. It's like 11 p.m. and I want to get like 30 minutes to an hour of gaming before I go to bed. And that will be just absolutely perfect for it. And I think they have a big opportunity just by making a good console UI because right now with the current PC handhelds, you're using Windows and it's just not a great experience. So
Yeah.
I do really hope they expand that out.
Yeah. So have you found that you use your ROG Ally frequently? More, what do you play the most?
I still play my console the most.
Okay.
But I do use my RGL like, my RGLi usage in the last, I don't know, couple of months has definitely increased, and what I've been doing a lot of, which is kind of counterintuitive to the point of having this thing, but it is what it is. I've been using it a lot to remote play from my
Mm.
Series X while I'm in bed, and it works, flawlessly rather than downloading the games and stuff.
Yeah, I actually think it's actually I think what PlayStation did right, and I know they got a lot of heat for their PS Portable or what is it, PS Portal.
Yeah.
Uh, I have it. It was actually gifted to me, and I was like, okay, let's check this thing out. And I actually think that thing got criticized. Granted, I hear when it first dropped, it was a lot. There was some issues with it, but now it runs super smooth. And I don't even need the thing is the battery life is amazing because it's not running any hardware in there. It's literally streaming from your PlayStation to your handheld. But with limited time, I don't even I have my Xbox. I have two. I have a Series S and the Series X. My Series S is down here in my office. But if I play down here in my office, I am removed from my family. Like my wife is like, "Hey, you gonna spend time with us and the kids? What's going on?"
Yeah.
If I play upstairs on the TV, hey, we wanted to use the TV. What's going on? But if I have a handheld, I can sit next to them and play while they're doing something and I'm not removed. I'm not taking over the TV. I can, like you said, lay in bed and play. Let's be honest, toilet time, golden gaming time,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Yeah.
like you can just take advantage of all it increases your gaming time. And I think that's what the Nintendo Switch has been ahead of the game there with their decision to go portable. I do think the rumors are PlayStation's looking at it. The rumors are Xbox is looking at it. I think it makes sense. I think when Phil Spencer says we want our games in the hands of a billion people, one, cloud gaming, and number two, options with portability. I think that's key.
Yeah. And do you think they'll open up the ecosystem at all? Like, do you because people are talking about Steam on it, right? 'Cause that's just one
Yeah,
thing with PC handhelds.
yeah. I mean, I think Steam and Xbox have a close enough relationship. Uh, they've been. I mean, the Gabe Newell has been just complimentary of the Xbox and the move to Game Pass. I could see it. I definitely could see it. I don't think it hurts Xbox. I mean, Xbox doesn't really care if another service sells their games because they have Game Pass.
Yeah. That's I mean, and it would imagine the amount of people that would be they would open it up to if they were to bring in Steam too, right? And just
Yeah.
make them I have because you were talking about your Series S, right? Your Series S is
Yeah.
in your office. I have the
Yeah.
exact same setup as you. I have my Series S in my office. I got my X on my main TV. I have my portable. Do you use your Series S a lot? Because I found myself since the beginning of the generation, I've been using my Series S a ton, and we always see these narratives about or these conversations online about like frame rates and everything. But I'm like sitting here playing on my Series S and having a great time.
No, I actually think if someone asked me, "Hey, what console should I get?" I think if you bang for your buck, I think the Series S is the best. Number 1, it looks the best. I think it's the right size.
Yeah,
My only complaint is the storage. Like if it bumped up to 1 terabyte,
yeah,
I would probably play it more. I have specific games on my Series S, so I really like turn-based strategy games. So I have like Age of Wonders on my Series S because it's a smaller game. I've got Crusader Kings on my Series S because it's a smaller game. Whereas I've got Starfield on my Series X because it's so big. I've got Flight Simulator on my Series X. I mean, that would be the only game yeah, if you were to download it on your Series S. So that would be my only complaint. But yeah, I'm with you. I actually think Xbox with the price tiering model that they have is really smart. It's the best family console, and you tie that in with Game Pass. I just don't see how you beat that value.
Yeah, and then other thing is too, right? Like they have Call of Duty on there getting can go up to 120 FPS on the Series S. You're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
have people just buying it just for that. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Now, have you bought any of the storage expansions at all? What do you think of the price
I
point there?
I finally did. I finally did. I bought it. I bought it. I think this past Black Friday. Now, it
Oh, okay.
was. I'm Canadian, so it's Canadian prices are I don't know. Add like at least $50 to whatever you paid for yours onto mine. And the pricing is still like I was honestly from the beginning of this generation, I was expecting them to have more competitors and drop them faster. But I
Yeah.
finally got it at like a good price on Black Friday.
Yeah. I just got mine like 3 weeks ago at 120. It was like 123. And I'm with you. I was waiting for that like $99 price point for the 1 terabyte. I think is very attractive, and I would have jumped on it sooner. Having said that, I actually wish I would have got the expansion sooner because it has changed. It's changed the way I game. Before I'd look at Game Pass or I'd look at games and I'd be like, it's so big. Do I want to try that out? Do I want to download it? I don't know. But now with the 1 terabyte, it's enough. I actually think the next console that drops 2 terabytes needs to be the minimum. I just think
Yeah.
because that's kind of this sweet spot right now with the size of games. Unless you go the Nintendo, unless we go backwards and we go the Nintendo route and a game is like under a gig, that would be the only way that you couldn't do it. But yeah, it's in fact going back and downloading Fallout 4 before I had the terabyte expansion, it was like, oh, this game is so small. Wow, this is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. And the transfer speeds on that expansion card, that to me has changed my gaming too, great because I don't care about downloading a game somewhere else and then going down to my S and have to worry about downloading it again. It just transfers so fast onto that card, and I just bring it from console to console, which is a huge plus.
Yeah, that's I've actually not thought of that. I could take that. Do I have to reformat it to do that? Because I
No,
remember when I plugged it in and set it up, I just said use on this console. And I remember there was an option like, here, I'm going to be taking it between consoles.
no, you can just I bring it between my X and S all the time, and it works fine. It'll ask you that every single time, I think, whichever
Oh, okay.
console you plug it into. But like I said, if you have a big game, transfer speed's so fast compared to re-downloading it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's nice. Yeah. 2 terabytes needs to be the minimum for sure. Before we get out of here, it's about time. What game are you playing right now?
I'm about to finish up the first Hellblade. I, for
Oh,
like I guess the first and a half time. I played it a long time ago. I honestly wasn't a big fan of it when I first played it. I thought it was actually kind of boring, and my views on it haven't changed too much. I like it in the sense that it is the first one. Like the audio side of it
yeah.
was
The story through audio
phenomenal.
is really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
But I'm really excited now for Hellblade 2 to see how they improve on like the combat and stuff. So that's what
Yeah,
I'm.
that's actually what I'm worried about because I do worry. Because if you watch even Trailblade or trailers of the first Hellblade, it gives you people like, oh, it's God of War, right? And it's not God of War.
No.
It is a puzzle game.
Yep.
Like, and if you're not into puzzle games, you're not gonna like Hellblade, I don't think. Or maybe you will like it, but definitely it's a distinct style. And I just wonder they don't. I don't imagine in this next Hellblade they get away from that puzzle as the main piece too much. Like I don't imagine they go too far. I know they're probably increasing the action adventure part of it, but how much do they increase it? I think is the question.
Yeah, probably not too much. Like I didn't hate the puzzles. I just found like the movement speed sometimes was just a little slow for me. And I don't know. I found I would get just kind of taken out of it sometimes if I was really stuck on a puzzle, but I didn't find them any that difficult. Um my recent playthrough, and I definitely enjoyed it more than my first playthrough. But I'm just again, I'm just excited for the audio experience and how that's gonna because it was so good in the first one. Now with everything we've been seeing and how they're recording the audio and making the game, I think it's going to be just
Oh yeah, they have that
insane.
crazy microphone that they're using that is meant for like
Yeah.
the human ear or something insane like that. So, also, did you see the photo mode that dropped this
That
last week? That's like whoa.
that's insane. And that's going to be a marketing tool of its own when people are starting to put some awesome pictures. I love how you could move the characters from how they were like stopped when you went into the photo mode. That was super cool. And then like the lighting, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. What do you think of that criticism? By the way, we didn't talk about that, but this they've not yet marketed Hellblade. Like they're trying to purposefully sink Hellblade.
Uh so I talked to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they were explaining because they were in marketing, and they were like, they explained it in a way to me that made sense now as to kind of what Xbox is doing. So they don't necessarily want to like push it out too early because they want people to think about the game in Game Pass. It's like one of the things, right? And they want to get people to push them into the ecosystem. Um, we've seen consistent marketing throughout this last 2 weeks. That's just the reality of it. I know people saying there's been no marketing, but if you really go and look, there's been marketing on social media. There's been a news article every day pretty much about like new features in it and how they're making it the most realistic game ever. So I don't think it's been I actually think the Hellblade marketing hasn't been as bad as people have been saying.
Yeah, I think it. Well, granted, I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth with everything that's happening, and I just thought it was one more thing. Like, oh, now everyone's a marketing expert. Now
Yeah.
you understand marketing, and you understand, and you're everywhere, so you can see, all their billboards and all the cities and whatnot, and understand their strategy. It just that one felt like a stretch to me, for sure.
Yeah.
So, well, that does us for today. Big Plume, thank you for coming on. Thank you for being here. This was a lot of fun. Just kind of chill, relax. I know you usually go for a lot longer than I do when you stream, but I appreciate you being on. It's been great to talk. And where can people find you, and where can they check you out?
Yeah, no, first of all, it was awesome. Great conversation. Hopefully Xbox is still around next week from all the news we've been seeing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can find me mainly the best place to find me is YouTube, Plume Gaming on X. You can also find me there, Plume Gaming. Those are the two main spots.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for tuning in today, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube. Appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, Mex One the Gamer. We do this all the time right here on this channel. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.